At the beginning of World War I, 300 firefighters from New South Wales fire brigades resigned and put their hands up to serve as soldiers. 31 firefighters never returned.
We remember them. Firefighters and the ANZAC spirit.
The fire services were regarded as and known as the fourth arm of defence because they had a very significant role in the protection of community and assets from potential invasion and bombing.
John Stuntz here was an athlete. He was a permanent fireman also. He was also a very well-known rugby league player of his day. And he played in the very first rugby league match in 1908 for Eastern Suburbs and scored 4 tries. So he's pretty good. He joined the fire brigade and was, as I say, a permanent fireman. And then when war started, he enlisted into the army. Before the war, when Stuntz was at his peak as a rugby league player and athlete, you can compare him to today's modern athletes, and he would have been popular. He was earning good money by the sounds of it, and on his return from Britain, he would have had a fair bit of coin in his pocket. He would have been a recognisable figure around town. Landed in France on the 21st of April 1917. Just prior to the Second Battle of Bullecourt, which was another major battle where Australia lost many, many men. So on the 3rd of May, that battle commenced. "45 minutes into it, John Stuntz is dead. Robert Thomas Reginald Foster was born at Rouse, New South Wales, and was a grocer by profession. He was a member of the Boolaroo Volunteer Fire Brigade, and he enlisted in the AIF at Liverpool. He was appointed to the 1st Battalion and landed at Gallipoli, not on the first day, but a bit later in the campaign. And early on, he was wounded for the first time and suffered shock. The battalion then went across to France, and on the first day of that action, he was involved in the initial assault and was wounded for a second time. For actions at Fleurs, he received a Distinguished Conduct Medal. And in 1917, when the battalion was fighting on the Somme, he was wounded a 3rd time, and he died from these wounds.
Turkish mounted a counter-offensive in May, which failed, and then they had bodies all over the place. So the two sides decided that they would call an armistice and bury their dead. The Australians are surprised at the Turks and their resistance, and the Turks are equally surprised by the Australians because they know very little about them, except perhaps what they were taught by German propaganda, and that was that all Australians were cannibals.
Lieutenant Leslie James West was a storekeeper by profession prior to the war. He was attached or appointed to the Merewether Fire Brigade as a volunteer firefighter. And the interesting thing about Lieutenant West is the day he enlisted, he fronted up, had no previous military experience, but he was made a corporal from day one. So obviously the enlisting officer must have seen a quality in him and gave him a position of authority right from the word go.
Medals are a tangible gift from a very grateful nation to its soldiers, sailors and airmen. If they're your medals in the military, they're worn on the left, Fire and Rescue New South Wales, where they're internal awards on the right-hand side, which is standard. The awards that are issued by the federal government on the left-hand side. By covering the medals on your left breast with your right hand is showing the utmost respect whether you're wearing a Victoria Cross or a campaign medal. You're showing that what the soldiers have died for is a lot more important than what you're wearing on your chest. They have given the ultimate sacrifice in death. Lieutenant West received a Distinguished Conduct Medal. He fulfilled that duty in delivering the goods to very many people that were all very thirsty, as you can imagine, through being shot at and carrying supplies up to the front line where it was swept by machine gun fire, in delivering the water and other rations to the troops and ammunition, and then on the way back he was helping with the wounded. Lieutenant West did that for 36 hours straight, which was a great effort. A year later, almost to the day, he was killed in action.
Percy Clarence Tuck, he was born in Avoca, Victoria, and he made his way to New South Wales and joined the New South Wales Fire Brigade in 1910, working at headquarters, Paddington and Katoomba, where he actually became the officer in charge. He landed at Gallipoli on the 25th of April, about 8 o'clock in the morning, with the 4th Battalion. They were obviously involved in securing the beachhead, and by the 1st of May they were up at Bolton's Ridge, and they were getting bombed by artillery, machine gun fire and snipers. He was killed sometime on the 1st of May, and again his body was never recovered.
You're fighting for the bloke who's next to you and for the mate on the other side of him and for your mate behind you and your mate in front of you. That's who you're fighting for.
Herbert Norman May, known as Birdie to his friends and family. Birdie May was a sawmill employee and a volunteer with the Casino Brigade at the same time. So he was the first of the honour roll members from the City of Sydney Fire Station. Like so many other men of great potential, Herbert Norman May was dead at 20. Thomas George Roy Champion was born at West Maitland and was a carpenter by profession and also a volunteer with the Grafton Fire Brigade. When he enlisted, he was placed in the 9th Battalion, and they're considered the 1st Battalion ashore on the 25th of April 1915 at Gallipoli, trying to establish a secure beachhead and trying to get as much ground as they could before the Turk forces got organised. They would have got to a point where they were just digging trenches, digging for their life. So he's landed at Gallipoli at 4:30 in the morning, and then within a couple of hours at least, he's lying with this horrific injury to his head, which eventually killed him. The official record state he died on the 27th of April, so a couple of days later, 21 years old. Another tragedy.
The men who went could never have imagined the horrors of the Western Front. They would have had no idea there would have been nothing in their background that would have fully prepared them for it.
You ready, mate? Yeah. Go! They'd absolutely be gutted. And it doesn't happen just once, it was happening repeatedly. So around them, people are falling all the time. I guess that they would get to a point where they would go, what's the point? This is just futile with so much bloodshed happening.
Reuter Emmerich Roth was born in London and educated at the University College and Hospital at London. He migrated to Australia in 1882 and as a medical practitioner he was appointed as the medical advisor for the New South Wales Fire Brigades. He was the founder of a lot of things within Australia, the Royal Life Saving Society, the St John's Ambulance Brigade. He was the Chief Medical Advisor for the Royal Prince Alfred Hospital. He was married with a wife and 3 children. He commanded the 5th Field Ambulance on Gallipoli, so he was a doctor dealing with these horrific wounds and traumas that the soldiers were suffering, and would have been surrounded by death for all that time. Guys would lose limbs, they'd have injuries that you just couldn't treat. The loss of blood would have been absolutely traumatic. He certainly would have brought a lot of those memories and that trauma home with him, and had to deal with that and live with it for the rest of his life.
Men who came home shell-shocked, that was the term they used, which was really post-traumatic stress disorder, were given no help. The idea was, go back and get on with your lives and forget about the war. A lot of them, of course, took to drink. They became short-tempered, they had mood swings, they're quite often irrationally very angry. The things that children did one day were all right, were not right the next. Kids were worried about bringing friends home for fear of what sort of mood Dad might be in. It takes 3 generations before the impacts dissipate. Generally in the towns, the telegram boys, and there were lots of them, they were about 14, 15 years old, they would just arrive at the door, knock at the door and deliver the telegram. But if they were in a country town or in a community where everybody knew everyone else, then the postmaster, he would know what was in the telegram and would contact the local priest.
Mary Reeby was born in Lancashire, in England in 1777. She was originally called Mary Haydock. Her childish prank of borrowing and riding neighbours' horses had her arrested and transported at the age of 13. She arrived in Sydney in 1792. She was originally called Mary Haydock. Her childish prank of borrowing and riding neighbours' horses had her
Of course, when the telegram came and they read the words, a lot of them simply refused to believe it, especially if it was missing an action. He must be somewhere. He's got to an island somewhere if he was on a ship. He's got down into an area where some kind person's taken him in.
You shut that gate! No, turn around and go! You're not welcome here! John! John!
People have written inscriptions about the men who lie there, and they cover a full range of sentiments and emotions. Some are profoundly patriotic, like he died for king and country. Some are odd, indeed, like well done, Ted. And it's like, I mean, I wonder if Ted would have felt that it was well done, but there's one that says, tread softly, for a mother's heart lies here. There's another which concludes with the last line a boy wrote to his mother in his last letter, I'm all right, mother, cheerio.
You can travel around Australia now and there'll be nothing left of a small farming community except for the First World War Memorial. Sitting there, made in granite and faced in marble, with perhaps half a dozen names on it. But it mattered to the people of that community to remember those people, and in many ways these small memorials that we have everywhere served as a point to hold a service, a focus for the remembrance. So in that way they probably substituted for the tombs and the headstones that were overseas.
These men displayed values that we need within our society, we need to continue them on. Self-sacrifice, service to our communities, service to our nation, service to each other. That's. We just have to keep that going through the future.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them, lest we forget.
There's no difference between the Johnnies and Mehmets to us, where they lie side by side here in this country of ours. You, the mothers who sent their sons from faraway countries, wipe away your tears. Your sons are now lying in our bosom and are in peace. After having lost their lives on this land, they have become our sons as well.